Greetings, everyone. How you doing tonight? Who is with us tonight? Well, we got 4 likes up already. That's incredible. You guys are on it. That's beautiful. I love to see it. So, I'm going to treat myself to one of these when this is over. It's a watermelon Jolly Rancher, so I like those. So, Beck Breezy, Jay Smith, Crystal Rose, how's it going? Now, some of you guys are not working. Nicholas Williams, how are you? Landon Jones, Mars Boy, Sullivan Walker, Tashara Nisbet. Oh, yes. Candace Jackson, Emmanuel Preston, Philly Esh. These names are going up so fast. Wow. So right now it is 9:17 in the PM. To all of my students watching, I see you guys, Brian Davis, Christopher Santiago. Please forgive me if I don't call all of your names, but the names are going by so fast. I want to get the thumbs up, guys, so that we can place higher. Good evening. I am Sri Master Gano Grills for Galighticus. I might be a little shiny. It looks like I'm shiny because I took a nice hot shower tonight. And I put some cocoa butter, some shea butter on my face, and it makes you a little shiny, you know? So hope you don't mind. I wanted to wash my hair and my hands and fingernails really good and get ready for tonight's live and answer some more of your questions, because you guys are just percolating and busting open wide with your wonderful questions. So I don't know technically which day this is that we are in the COVID-19 pandemic. That's right, people. We are all the way live into the recesses of a pandemic. We're actually in the early stages, and this is something that's going on across the world. It's I called for a roll call on Facebook, and all of my people in Australia, Amsterdam, Russia, the Virgin Islands, Canada, London, England, but of course, everyone is feeling the vapors right now. If you guys don't know the vapors, look it up. It's a song by Biz Markie and Cool V from back in the days. How many of you guys are old enough to remember that song? It's a funny song. So right now we're in the vapors of the pandemic, and it's something that's going to force a few things to happen. No basketball, no more Models, no Broadway plays on or off Broadway. Does this mean there's no more church? No more church gatherings? No more Jesus? No more Joel Osteen or T.D. Jakes or Creflo Dollar? Whoa, that's deep. What would Jesus say about that? There are no more concerts. There's a lot of people that have lost their only source of income. It's rough, people. Some people have a restaurant and have had to close their restaurants. No more public gatherings of more than 50 people. This is a Class A pandemic. And again, a week from now, a month from now, 3 months from now, we're going to see what the stocks are like. A lot of people have lost a really good amount of their savings. Some people have lost all of their retirement. Some people have lost everything. And for people who are wise investors, hopefully you'll hang on and some of those things will come back. But you have to weather this storm, you know. And right now, this is a really good time for people to become a little more introspective. The nail salons are closing. That's right, guys. The gyms are closing. So a lot of people are going to get fat and or skinny, right? This is going to force people to get really to use their ingenuity, the good old fashioned tenacity, and see what they can come up with. Unfortunately, I predict that there will be an onslaught of graffiti coming back. I think that there will be people who are very, very artful, and a lot of schemes will be concocted and diabolically stewed up for people who are criminal minded. There might also be some crime and the resurgence of an age old profession known as prostitution, sugar daddy-ism, sugar mommy-ism. Some people are going to need a place to live. Some people are going to have to go back with their old girlfriends and be a hobosexual. You know what a hobosexual is, right? It's a hobo. It's a person that doesn't have a place to live, which is, the slang terminology lists as a hobosexual. So you're using your sexuality to live on someone's couch, or maybe in the comfort of someone's double queen or king size bed, but you're not really in a relationship. That is called hobosexuality. It's a real thing, people, and some of you are complicit in that type of agenda. That's a shame, but hey, you have to do what you have to do in order to survive. But we're going to look at some of the ways in which you don't have to succumb or capitulate to that kind of, as my students and I like to say, spiritual guri. You guys got that? That's not cool. It's not EY Pele, people. Everyone should be able to stand on their own. But right now, like Bill Withers said in 1972, this is the time for us to have somebody to lean on. It's important. This is a really good time to take stock of who your real friends are, to reconnect with family, and this is a suggestion that I propose and suppose to anyone who is listening. Right now is a great time, if you live in a community, to knock on doors and print up some flyers and get a block coalition. And this can happen on every block. People need to get together in these times and pull their resources together. You need, some people don't have a problem with having lots of food. People can come together and, this is what we did in Atlantis. We were for us, by us. And this is a good time to really help people who are in need. And if you know the resources that are local to you, and you know who's capable of doing what, and who can oblige this particular need in society, this is a great way for people not to struggle as much if people are inquiring about the resources of other people that are local to them. So this is a good time to investigate that and enact that initiative. Let's get the thumbs up, guys, and let's get the likes up a little bit more. So I want to acknowledge all of my chain of command. Hello, ladies. How are you? All of my officers and each and every one of my students in the Galighticus studentship program of Ascension. And we've been working together in different exercises, and I've been sharing some things that for the most part of 7 years since I've been teaching publicly, I've been keeping a lot of these things to myself. And I said, and I have to thank one of my dear graduates, Anne Francois from Belgium, from Brussels. And this was about maybe 3.5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. We had a very difficult conversation. I had flown to London and I was in the airport, and we spoke on the phone for about an hour. And she and I were talking, and it was a very heated conversation. And she was crying and she was very upset. And she said, back then it was before Sri Master Gano. She said, Gano, we have to do better in the studentship, and we're not connected enough, and there's not enough things for us to do. And she lamented about not having enough exercises to strengthen her spirituality, and somewhat of a disconnect. And I was struggling with that, and I wanted to make the studentship program a lot better. So I went back to the drawing board and I reviewed everything, and I wanted to incorporate things that would bring us closer together. And as a result, what came out of that is a private studentship chat that we have where we can keep in contact with each other on a daily basis. And we have a code of conduct that we operate with so things don't get sloppy and people don't introduce and promote and cross-reference other people's material, because that's not something that would make us stronger as a unit. But what we do is we do group ritual together. And today or tonight is Thursday. So we have somewhat of a spiritual susu going on, and we have different initiatives that we really pray for each other. We burn ancestor money for each other. We practice things that are going to develop more of a quantumic web and a connectivity and a useful pocket of resource that we can draw from as a unit. So that's one of the major improvements that we've made, along with a lot of other things that we've been doing for the past year. And I'm very grateful. So I just want to acknowledge you, Ian, because you spearheaded that and sparked it off. And thank you for really being strong enough and bold enough to bring that to my attention. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to look at some more of your questions. And we're going to take a stab at some of these questions. Some of the questions are pretty layered and they're not as easy to get through. But I'm going to exercise myself and get this to you. And also, we're going to have a testimony of the week. We're going to start sharing that, because every day there's someone on Facebook that shares a very special occurrence that has happened to them. And I encourage people to do that so that other people can read it and weigh in on that, right? Weigh in, operative mechanism that is a connectivity that allows other people to visualize and weigh in and give their opinion on how they see the situation so that we can all grow together. And that's a great resource, isn't it? Let's get some more thumbs up, guys. There are about 230 of you watching. And take a moment to subscribe to our channel so you can get the push notifications as to when we go live. And you could be the very first one to take advantage of it as it's happening. All right. So our very first question comes from one of my dear students, Darwin Young. How you doing, Darwin? And Darwin asks, greetings, S&G. Did you give the names of the other 44 Galighticus Gods making the 66 aligned with Ascension assistance on Mother Terra? No, I have not, Darwin. As of now, we have 32 gods that are known to our Galighticus family, and the rest of the gods, it's not time for us to reveal that yet. And one of the reasons being is because they're waiting for, the more we grow as a movement and the more of the teachings and the things that are given that people actually put into action, that will pull the revelations out of the clandestine corridors of oblivion into our midst, so that we can take advantage of the utility of knowing who all of these gods are. Right now, we're not really ready for that, because there has not been tipping of the scales, if you will, of all of the people collectively over the past 7 years of Galighticus existence on the planet, who are not just getting high off the knowledge and the things that they're learning, but are really utilizing and putting into practical application into the sovereignty of their life, so that they can have the benefit of the result that it causes, if that makes sense. So the more people that do that, the more gods will be inclined to reveal who they are. Right now, we have, again, 32 of them, and that is more than enough to keep us solvent and above the fray, if you will. Think about this. When you look at the Christianite doctrine, The gods of, or the demigods of that particular doctrine don't even use their real names within the construct of that religion. They use the Holy Ghost. Who is the Holy Ghost? They use Jesus, but there was no J in the languages that were that revealed the actual construct. Or they say all of these other little convenient colloquialisms and euphemisms. Now, you do have Yahweh. You do have certain other names that don't literally address who those demigods are. Why do you guys think that is? Why do you think it is that when you read the Bible, it always talks about Pharaoh, but it never talks about which Pharaoh or which dynasty or dynastic period that they are talking about? Why is that? It's very, very interesting, isn't it? So to that end, when you compare the Christianite doctrine that just has God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and maybe Mother Mary sometimes, and the whole, the Essenes and some of the prophets, it doesn't really equate to the menagerie of a pocket of energy that you can really pull from to empower yourself. Wherever, when you look at Galighticus, we have 33 gods who have all shown themselves to people in a safe way that has not skewed or disrepaired their consciousness. We have thousands of testimonies of people who have seen Zeus, who have seen Tahuti, who have seen Sekhmet, who have seen Lakshmi, who have seen Hermes Trismegistus, who have seen Apollo. I personally have introduced Anubis, Anpu, Asar to these people in a safe way in their meditations, dreams, or parallel realities. Why is it that Jesus has not introduced himself to anyone in Galighticus or anyone that I have spoken to? I have never met one person who has been able to look me in my face and say, yes, Sri Master, I met Jesus and he came to me and said that yada, yada, yada. It has not occurred yet. However, there are many people who have come to me and says, well, Lakshmi came to me, or I saw Hanuman, or I saw the Jade Emperor, and they offered me a gift. They offered me a boon. They gave me a diksha, or a blessing, or something that I could use to change the construct of the parameters of my life. But I don't hear anything about the Holy Spirit coming to anyone, or I don't hear the God that doesn't have a name that everyone seems to want to thank when they get an Oscar, Grammy, Tony, or Emmy. But who is that God that you're thinking? Because there are billions of gods, and we have cataloged on earth a few thousand of them, but who are they in particular? I have never heard anyone have the chutzpah or the cojones or the courage to get up on a stage. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I know that Forrest Whitaker knows the Orisha very well, but he still said God. He didn't say Obatala. He didn't say Olofi Olodumare. He didn't say what he knows is the reality upon which he draws his power from. Why do you think that people capitulate to that? I know that J-Lo knows Yemaya and Oshun and has drawn significant power from them, but I have not heard her regale them publicly. Can someone tell me why that is? So you want the power of the gods, but you don't want to acknowledge them. You don't want people to know that you are a child of them. You don't want people to know that you are a benefit of or a practitioner of the science of how to overturn limitation and place you at the top of the heap. Why is that, people? These things have to change. All right. Our next question comes from Yvette Galler on Facebook. And she asks, "Greetings, Sri Master Gano Quills. I was wondering, is it okay to put my adopted parents on my altar even though they are not blood, but they raised me?" Yvette Galler, that is a great question, and a lot of you also have supported that question. And, let's face it, a lot of us are adopted. A lot of us didn't know our parents. A lot of us were taken in by well-meaning people who may not really be related to us by blood. So this is what we do. If you have a majority of people who raised you that you are not related to by blood, that you want to honor, juxtaposed with people that you were related to, that you were disassociated with, that is fine. You can place them on your altar and make offerings to them. And like I've said before, I do believe that your Egun, your ancestors, will understand that. But when you place them on the altar and you burn ancestor money and you make offerings, make it clear for about the first week that you are not ignoring your own blood. Let them know that you have been reared, raised, and kept whole and hearty by these people that you're putting on your altar. And that is a very loving question. So I hope that you have now the strength and peace of mind with carrying out that initiative. All right. Our next question comes from Sankofa Divine. Peace, Honorable SMWG. Where does all the harvest energy goes after the gathering of fear-based current events? Guys, when you post your questions, please don't speak to me ebonically, because when I read it, it comes across as if I don't know how to read. And I know how to read. Not as good as Nicholas Williams. How you doing, Nick? But when you look at this, I'm going to read it again, and I'm going to have to just kind of correct something. When you type a question, read it a couple of times. Make sure that it is grammatically correct. All right? So, Sankofa Divine, here we go again. Where do, not does, right? And maybe you didn't check the automatic spell check or something like that, but take the time to do that, because I see a lot of these questions and it's just ridiculous. All right, so where does all the harvest energy go after the gathering of fear-based current events? That's a great question. Well, what happens is that, and let's give it a little more context. When people pray every day to God Almighty, again, there are other gods who postulate as God Almighty and are able to take that. That energy goes to them. Now think about this. Very little of that energy benefits the issuer of that prayer. A large majority of it is taken, siphoned, usurped, and stolen, if you will, because it doesn't have a correct address on it. Doesn't that make sense? Okay. Our next question comes from Lady Tarzaneth Nisha, and she asks, "I'm curious to know, what's the significance of seeing family members that are still alive in my recordings lately? They look younger, healthier, and happy. Gratitude." Well, most likely what is happening with that is, if you are seeing family members that are still alive and they are appearing to you, that is letting you know literally that there is a benefit that is happening, that is spilling over into the presence of your living ancestors. Your ancestors are spilling the ashe. And now you've been with us, I think, for about a good 3 years. And I know you have been making offerings, earnest offerings, for at least a year. The benefit of that would cause this equation, which is your ancestors on the other side are showing you a younger version of your living ancestors. And really what that means is that they are delivering vitality to the energy life streams of your living ancestors, which is really more of a nod to you in the affirmative that what you are doing through the offerings is working. Keep up the good work, or the solid interface, if you will. Okay? Our next question comes from Nicole Vaden on Facebook. And Nicole Vaden asks, can you speak on the benefit of giving precious metals, gold, silver, etc., as an offering to the gods of the Galighticus? Nicole Vaden, that's a really good question. And what happens is that, and I'll use myself as an example, I have a fairly large golden Shakyamuni Buddha statue that sits on the floor. It's too big to be upon the altar. And if you have a statue that's that big and doesn't fit on the altar, it's okay to have that statue on the floor. On the statue, there are many gold coins, silver coins. One of my students, Christopher Santiago, gave me a wonderful gift of a gold and silver coin along with some documents that show the validity of its potency, as has Nanya. How you doing, Nanya? And some of you guys have given me wonderful, wonderful gifts that are of gold and silver magnitude. It is one of the highest quality gifts that you can give outside of a Gogolplex or a Godgala Gong note that have numbers that are quite staggering, even for the greatest mathematician to explain to you in under 2 minutes flat. So that's really what it is. It's really no different than Nicole Vaden, right? Most women like the finer things in life. Most women like diamonds. Most women like to go to a fine restaurant. I don't know any quality woman that would like to go to Burger King on a date. So, to that end, if you want to make a positive impact on the gods, you want to give them the very finest that you can give. And gold coins or golden bars and silver bars is a great way to demonstrate that desire, to show them that you are serious about their energy and giving them something that they hopefully will acknowledge and give back to you in terms of the power that they have available for you. Okay? Our next question comes from Anthony Blair on Facebook. And Anthony Blair says, greetings, True Master Gano Grills. Why are so many women much more spiritual in comparison to men? Peace and blessings to chain of command officers, initiates, students, and the whole Galighticus family. That was really nice of you, Anthony, to acknowledge the whole team. And the answer to that question is really quite simple. Spirituality is nonlinear. Logic follows the order of what we deem as in order. But when you look at the curvature of how spirituality expresses itself, it is in a non-linear fashion. Women are non-linear beings. This is the reason why sometimes we are not as astute as we should be at understanding the power that they possess. Women love beauty. Women love the order of a nice home. Women like the sanctimonium of being protected. Women like things that men should be an example of, but a lot of times fall short of. Women express a deep well of devotion. Women are the caretakers of our world. Women are built to the point where they have a different kind of strength than men do. And let's give an example. Women can deal with impropriety a lot better than men. Women can find out that their man is cheating on them, and of course, the women would be upset and hopping mad, but they would be more inclined to take the man back and deal with it accordingly. Whereas a man, on the other foot, would find out the same thing and bust a capillary or two and not be able to deal with the indiscretion of a woman stepping out on him. Men are not, we don't have the same kind of strength that women are geared to have. And this is one of the reasons why, unfortunately, and I spoke about this in detail, women were removed out of the equation of equanimity, of having the same kind of power in society as a man. And in this patriarchally run society, it is one of our biggest failings. And we have to get back to the culture of having women right by the side of the man to make some of the decisions and make some of the rulings, and to allow women to create more of the order that we've been missing out on over the past few hundred years. So I hope that answers your question. That is the reason why men have some catching up to do when it comes to the ease that women have. I'm going to share something else too. I was talking about this with my baby's mother, Elizabeth. How you doing, Elizabeth? If you're watching, we talked about, when we were together many, many years ago. We have 4 children together, and we were just really looking at who we were 30 years ago. We both had jobs. We both were young. We both were responsible. And, we were complaining about our 2 sons. Now, I might be too transparent, so my mom is probably going to have a word with me after, though. You're telling too much, son. You're giving out too much. Well, Mom, I think that personally, when I share some of these things, it is a human thing. And, it's something that we all can relate to, right? Okay, so my 2 daughters, they have jobs. One of my daughters has 2 jobs. She seldomly comes to me for money. My other daughter, same thing. Waleska and Christina, I love you guys. They don't come to daddy unless they really, really need something. And that's why I never turn them away. They are proficient and they're independent, and I raise them that way. My 2 other sons, I have 3 sons, but my 2 sons from this particular relationship, they still have a ways to go. I talk to them all the time. I'm like, guys, you are men. You are 3 times as strong as your sisters physically. What is the failing that you guys have that you're not, in the flow of what your abilities are? And I'll just leave it right there. So, women have jobs, women have their own place, women have their own transportation, whereas you look at some of their counterparts and guys are, couch surfing. Guys don't have an income coming in. Sometimes that's legal. I'm not saying all guys, but I've seen enough men out there that are not holding their weight. They're not doing as well as their counterparts are. And that is because they are not as spiritually adept, or they're not tapping into the kind of strength that women have innately. So I hope that answers your question. The guys don't go getting all upset and, hot under the collar. This was not a male bashing. It's a simple observation that we can do better. And I'd like to acknowledge all of my guys and all my men that are out there that are doing well, that have their own place, that have a job, that have transportation, have money in the bank. Kudos to you guys, and I honor you and I salute you. And for you guys who are falling short of that, you got to get your life together. We may have to wait till this pandemic dies down a little bit for you to elucidate that you have the willingness and the ability to do that. But you got to do something, guys. All right? I hope that makes sense. So, our next question comes from, and this is a pretty long one. It comes from Anjali Kami. And she says, Sri Master Gano Grills, as I lay in my bed praying to the gods of Galighticus, I recalled a dream I had last night. It is very strange but feels significant. I recall that I was trying to use the bathroom, but every stall, at least 20, all had something wrong with them. Most of them were nasty or the door was broken. And I didn't want to use any of the toilets because I absolutely hate a dirty bathroom and felt extremely uncomfortable. But I had to go bad in my dream, and I was, in a way, forced to use one. I felt very disgusted and feared that I would be caught using a dirty bathroom. I've had these kind of dreams before, but never knew the meaning and haven't had one in a long time. Lisi Gilby also chimed in and says, I get those often too now. And when I have them, I take it as I need cleansing because I could possibly be, how would this be viewed by you? There I go with that whole reading thing. Like, I have dyslexia. Don't laugh at me, Nicholas Williams. If Nicholas was here, he would read like a radio broadcaster, just smooth and to the point. That's always been one of my feelings. Doing cold readings wasn't my strong suit. Sorry, guys. So, Anjoli, what this particular recording is sharing with you is that there's a couple of things going on here. And the energy of this dream is a reminder from your ancestors. And they're reminding you to get on with the business already. And I don't mean of relieving yourself. Become less in vanity and do what needs to be done. That is the message that this dream is illuminating and bringing to your attention. And for all of you who have had dreams about being naked, completely naked, or in your drawers in public, it is a warning that you need to be humble. You said something that was very interesting. You said that you were afraid that you would be caught using a dirty bathroom. You didn't say that I am afraid that I would catch something by using the bathroom. You had more of a fear of what someone would think by you utilizing a dirty toilet. That's very, very telling, Anjoli. And you want to do some things. Now, Landon Jones asked the question a couple of weeks ago about what he could do to be more humble. Go back to that video, Anjali, and look at the answer. That video shared a lot of what you could do to be a little more humble, and that's what you're being asked to do through the reoccurrence of this particular recording or dream. If you don't do that, something will happen, or a series of events will happen to make you humble. You don't want a video camera to be nearby, because a lot of the people that you see that are utterly embarrassed on the World Wide Web, you go to World Star Hip Hop every day, there's somebody who, I don't know what happens to these people, because I've said to myself, if I ever was caught out there, and something like this happened and I was embarrassed, I'd have to move to another country. Some people would literally die of embarrassment, because now you easily have 200,000 people who are looking at something that has happened to you that has been extremely embarrassing. Guys, let's get the thumbs up. Let's hit that like button. Thank you, Stephanie, for that reminder. Let's get the likes up, guys. All right. So I hope that answers your particular question. We're going to get right down to some more questions, guys. And this next question comes from Isatu Torre on Facebook. The importance of not vaccinating your children. Isatu, that's a really, really tricky one. And I don't want the responsibility of telling someone my personal opinion about what they should do with their children when it comes to inoculations and vaccinations. So I'm going to have to bypass on that. But what I would say is, if I were, and thank goodness all of my children are grown. I do have grandchildren, but it's not my business, outside of telling my children what I think they should do. So what I would tell any young children, if I had grandchildren, what I feel they should do through my children, is to look at other alternatives and find out what the benefits are of this particular vaccination. There are some vaccinations that I feel you can live without, but unfortunately, your child will not be able to go to school without certain vaccinations, certain inoculations. So if you go to KT, the Arch Degree, how you doing, KT? Or you go to Sonetta TV, they had a debate about this particular subject. Go to that debate on Sonetta TV. I think it's Black News 102 or Sonetta TV. And there was a debate a few months ago, actually, about this very topic. It's not something that I feel comfortable really talking about to steer you. So I would subscribe and advocate and refer you in that direction so that you can get all that you need. I also think that maybe Dr. Umar Johnson may have some things that may be valuable in regards to what you could possibly do about your children being vaccinated. Okay? Hope that answers your question. Thumbs up, guys. Like buttons. We're like teetering on 298. We have to crack that 300. There we go. We just made 300 people online. Let's see if we can get it up to 333. Who knows? There's a lot of people at home right now. How you doing, guys? Once again, thank you for tuning in. I am Sri Master Gano Grills for Galighticus, and thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to give you guys also a particular ritual that you can use that would be very helpful in possibly helping the higher beings to see that we really don't want to go through this difficult pandemic and what it's the fallout that it's going to cause. As I said before earlier in the transmission, that a lot of people have instantly lost their only source of income. There's no kind of public gatherings. If you even look at, I think Wendy Williams even just went off the air. You look at The View, you look at Rachel Ray, and some of these shows, they do not have a studio audience of over 50 people. There are no more concerts. There's no more Broadway. There's not a lot of entertainment being available. By the way, happy birthday to my boy Carlton Fisk. He had a birthday party yesterday, but there weren't more than 50 people there. And that was very risky, Carlton Fisk. I went there. We had a great time. And, I love you, Carlton. So, right now, they haven't gotten to a point where they're going to start enforcing through martial law the curfew and public gatherings. And I hope it doesn't get to a point where that gets ugly, because you know how some of these things can get. So I would advise everyone to cooperate as much as publicly, humanly possible, so they don't have to pull that trigger, literally and figuratively speaking. We need to be compliant with what the CDC is saying, which is social distancing. There is a real science to that will cut down this pandemic and make it manageable and get it out of here so that we don't have to live with the repercussions of being hard-headed. And human beings, unfortunately, are just that. We don't like to listen. We don't like to follow rules. And, there's a reason why they're asking people to quarantine or self-quarantine themselves. I advocate that we follow that for as long as we need to, so that we can have a positive outcome to this difficult time, if that makes sense, guys. How you doing, Chanel Brown? She has me saying that, and some of you other Brits have me saying that. I've adapted that into my vernacular, if you will. So our next question comes from, this is okay. I'm going to bypass that question because it's really more of a long series of run-ons, and I don't think anyone will benefit from that. There is another question that comes from Nijedi Mitchell, and Nijedi, or Nzjedi, however you say that, asks, is coronavirus a biological weaponized political event, or is it a natural occurrence? I feel it's natural. Then Mother Earth has given the okay for this to transpire. So it would then be a karmic virus that has many, many roads and avenues to guide itself, not only for karmic purposes, but to force the hand of the powers that be into releasing healing technology to help combat the virus. Also, the worldwide threat could make the governments into a one world government to work together. Please elaborate on this, SMWG. A lot of us want to understand why this has manifested on Earth at this time. Love and light. Namaste. Jedi. I'll just say that. That's a very, very layered question. And what I would say, I don't agree. There's lots of videos and lots of conspiratorial editorials out there about what people feel the COVID-19 or the series of coronaviruses, of which it's a family. Viruses move in families, and many, many difference of opinions. And my personal opinion about this is that, first of all, Mother Earth is a sentient being who was terraformed by many millions of years of being bombarded by comets and radiation and solar flares and lots of other things, and she survived it. She's still here. So something like the coronavirus is nothing to the planet. Mother Earth is not going anywhere. So when people pontificate the end of the world, or the world is ending, this planet is not going anywhere, but you potentially will. Let's use our good old-fashioned common sense. Mother Earth has outlived many advanced civilizations. Mother Earth has survived all kinds of plagues, pandemics, epidemics, wars, skirmishes, disagreements, tectonic plate removal, and shifting. Mother Earth has survived everything. Mother Earth has been around since before humans were placed here, since extraterrestrials had touched down here, since higher beings have come here and seeded life on this planet. This Earth has been reformatted many, many times. So the planet is a lot more durable than you could possibly imagine. And yes, she has a way of cleansing some of the foolishness off of her surface. She also has a way of protecting the people who are in harmony with her. So let's subtract that out of your query, and let's look at something else. The government. Now, when you talk about the government, you're talking about, we do not have a one world government. And it is supposed by some who are conspiratorialists and free thinkers that there is a powers that be that tells the governments and the rulership and the ruling factions of this world what to do. There are people who believe, and I am one of them, that any war that we've had has been sponsored by the same party. And I don't mean political party. The same group of people are going to benefit from the fallout of how war depopulates, how a pandemic depopulates. Do you guys want me to go way out on a limb? Do you want me to do that? Do you want Sri Master Gano Grill's to go way out like the Flintstones? Let's see what you guys got to say. Because I will. You know I will. Okay. Let's go way out, guys. Go deep. All right. We want to get deep for a minute. And don't be surprised if this video disappears. Because what I'm about to say, looking to see how I can measure, remix, change the names to protect the innocent, and create some loopholes and backdoor ways so that it doesn't, I don't get a knock on the door from the men in black, and then I will have to react, and you guys don't want that. Okay, so how do we do this? I want you guys to listen real close. What I am about to say does not specifically express the views of Galighticus or Sri Master Gano Grills or anyone who is on this particular view at the moment. I will pose this to you in a hypothesis, hypothetical, meaning not real. But what if the powers that be have, remember, extraterrestrials means what? Extra terrestris. Terra is terrestrial. It's the name of our world. Anything that is outside of Earth's sovereignty is known as extraterrestrial. Let's start with that. Why is it that you guys don't know for sure and have any pictures or any type of data, video of what a real extraterrestrial looks like that isn't something that is labeled a hoax? That you don't have any real pictures of Pleiadians, Arcturians, Vegans, Syrians, Draconians. You don't have that. You have pictures, paintings, depictions of what people and artists think they look like. Check. How you doing, Dr. Phil Valentine? What if, when these extraterrestrials make contact with Earth, they don't come to the hood? They don't go to the churches. They go to people in power. They go to the czars. They go to the kings and queens. They go to the presidents. Why do they do that? They do it because they're sentient enough and old enough to go to the leaders of the people, right? You know, all of the movies say it. Take me to your leader. I'm not talking to you. As a result, what if there was a coalition similar to the United Nations? What if this coalition in this group represented one person, represented 10 million people, 100 million people? You go to Africa, you have one person that represents the entire country of Africa. One person that represents the entire country of the United States. That would be the president, wouldn't it? One person that represents all of Europe. Who would that be? One person that represents South America. You follow me? Now, this group of people, hypothetically, are in talks with a race of beings that come down. And the very first thing that this group, who represents the interest of its denizens, citizens, the population, are going to do, they're going to ask these off-world beings who are known as extraterrestrial, how do we solve our problems? Or better yet, the beings that come down will ask this group, because they are the leaders of the world, right? They will say, well, tell us what your top 5 problems are. And guess what one of them is? We have way too many people on this planet. We have about 7.5 billion people. That's about 3 billion people too many. What if the off-world beings say, well, we can help you with that. We can't do it directly because we also have to follow rules. But we could give you a suggestion. And those suggestions might be, hypothetically, form a trusted faction called the FDA, the NRA, CDC. Form some alphabet groups that people will look to as purveyors of the truth, if you will. So the FDA says the 4 basic food groups are meat, dairy, cheese. Now, we all know, according to Dr. Sebi and KT, the arch degree, how you doing, KT? Queen of 4. And all of you vegetarians and vegans, how you doing, Supernova Islam? Love you, brother. That might not be the best thing to ingest into your body, especially dairy and cheese, because it creates mucus. And mucus is an agent that, as your lymphatic system is, shuffling the blood a few 100 times a second throughout your body, the mucus will snag those free radicals and those things that eventually metastasization will start to accumulate, which are all the toxins. And that will be known as a tumor. And over time, it will become cancerous and it will kill you. So the FDA says you can rely on these 4 basic food groups and you'll be healthy. Then we're going to genetically modify some of the food that you eat. We're going to create a litany of dollar stores for you to get cheap, real food. And China's going to give you all kinds of synthetic rice that's made of plastic. And we're going to put, you guys have seen the videos where they inject some of the meat with hormones to make it big and thick. And we have certain vegetables that are hybrids that are really no good for us to ingest. And certain combinations, food combinations, don't go with each other. But yet and still, the Food and Drug Administration will tell you that this will help you live a good, long life. So the government, or the powers that be, allegedly, hypothetically, might be complicit in spraying chemtrails where there's little bits of metal, putting fluoride in the water, deliberately dumbing down the education, not really having a socialized apparatus of which people can have real health care like outside of America, where everything is, subsidized and socialized by the government. Pay for that, people pay into it, and we don't have that here. So people get sick and die. Babies are disconnected from their placenta. They don't give you the placenta. Everybody knows that The placenta has all of the antibiotics and all of the things that will make the baby strong and not need to have inoculations and shots and all of those things, right? So they don't offer that to you and they don't keep that connected. And yeah, somebody said Popeye's chicken. Fast food is made cheap and affordable for people who can't afford it, and they don't pay you. Minimum wage is minimum wage for a reason. We're going to give you just enough so that you can go to Popeyes and Burger King, and get fast food and make yourself sick real fast, not be able to afford big pharma, and we'll get you in the ground a lot quicker. It's a way to depopulate the world faster. So let's keep going. Our planet has way too many people on it. Look up Agenda 21. Look up King Arthur's plan. Read Behold the Pale White Horse. Educate yourself on some of the things that a lot of people, they're not necessarily conspiratorial things. Let's get back to this group of people. This group of people are talking to now the extraterrestrials, and the extraterrestrials are saying, well, in order for you to have a better world where the elites can enjoy life, you got to cut down on the population, because in another 200 years, your planet is going to be somewhat inhospitable, and the elites will not be able to have the kind of life that they deserve to have. So you have to put people in the grave. And let's talk about human trafficking. Human trafficking is not as reported as it should be. And there are people that go missing all the time and are not accounted for. And hypothetically, what if some of these powers are complicit with that? It's another way to get lots of people off the planet. And the wars that we have, it's about time for another world war. We could get rid of a good 100 million people that way. There's a reason why kids are allowed into the army. 15-year-old, 21-year-olds, they haven't lived long enough to know that the war that they are fighting for and their patriotism is not really as altruistic as they would like to think. So let's get back to the hypothetical, what this possibly could be. What if a conversation is had about how to rid your planet of non-productive people, people who don't bring anything to the table, all of the poor class, the working class? Because right now, where it stands, this isn't about money, people. They've stopped the Broadway plays, they've stopped the NBA gatherings, Modell's is closing, Sears is gone. A lot of these stores that were bringing in a lot of money, now it's about power, hypothetically, allegedly, supposedly. I'm just saying, maybe, right? So if that's the case, maybe they've gotten all of the resources that they can get out of you. And now it's time to enact the final part of this, because remember, we did have Ebola, SARS, West Nile, a good list of about 12 other viruses that were hailed as possibly doing what's happening right now. What if, hypothetically, these were all pilot programs to, give some study as to what people would do? Let's see what they would do. Get bird flu, mad cow, all of that stuff. The list goes on. It's pretty lengthy. And all of those things came and went. But not this time. These were all test runs. And now it has taken hold, because now we know exactly what you guys are going to do. Not a damn thing. And think about it. You didn't do anything before. So this tells the powers that be that they'll be very easy to get rid of. Hypothetically, allegedly. What if? So right now, And I've been telling you guys for years, stop supporting these apocalyptic, you know, the last day on earth and Mad Max and all of these movies that are also pilot programs to see if you're going to support them. They've been making those movies for years, and you guys go to the movies and you've supported these movies and you've made them a lot of money so that they can enact and transact that reality into your reality. It's something now that we are here now. You guys asked for it. I thought this is what you wanted. And we have to live out the very thing that we participated in creating. You loved Bird Box. You loved the Will Smith movie about, him being the last one. You guys supported that. The numbers don't lie. It wasn't a fantasy, people. It was a real exercise in looking at the data that would come in to see what people would do if they were in that situation. And now, here we are. Okay, so let's get back to that meeting. That's one of the problems, the main problems, depopulation. So these are the ways that you can make people sick a lot faster, get them off the planet, but we need something bigger. So let's create something that, will give us an excuse to rid our planet of a lot more people. Now, if you look at the news, they're saying that how many millions of people can die from this if we don't enact social distancing? How many millions of people will die in a very short period of time? It'll be very easy for them to say, well, you guys didn't listen. We told you what you need to do, and you guys didn't listen. And now there are millions of people that are dying. What if the COVID-19 vaccination is next? I don't want to think about what happens when that is introduced as a mandatory inoculation that will allow you to go back to work. And when they start enforcing that, my mom always used to say, you want to keep your passport active because the day is going to come where you can't come and go freely. Isn't this a free country? But we're not able to come and go without a passport. You can't go into a country. My boy, Frank McCombs, how you doing, Frank? Frank just left for Russia. And I said, Frank, do you really think you should go right now? Do you think it's a good time for you to exit America? He's going out there for a month. So I'm praying for you, Frank, and I hope everything is okay. You'll be able to get back into the country. But, this is a real thing, people. So I don't like to talk about things without providing a solution. And right now, a solution is really important, or a series of things that we can do to illustrate that we're not willing to take this. Don't worry, government. I'm not talking about a militia or creating emissaries or anything like that. I'm not here to bankrupt any banks or anything like that. It's very, very simple. Just a couple of prayers so you guys can take it easy and back off. I'm not a threat, right? Okay, but we will get to that at the very end of our transmission. So do you guys see what that looks like? And I can go a lot deeper into that. Maybe I'll hold that for the next transmission. But play this back to yourself and listen to that presupposition. Listen to that example of the what if, because that'll give you your answer. And that's all I'm willing to go into at the moment, guys. How you doing, David Richards? Good to see you. I want to, let's see, did we get through all of the questions? We sure did. I wanted to get into the testimony of the week. You guys want to hear the testimony of the week? Let's see. Okay, cool. Let's go to the testimony of the week. It comes from Roderick Stephen Jones on Facebook. And Roderick, thank you so much for sharing this. And it didn't get a lot of traction, unfortunately, because honestly, I think a lot of people, they're tired of all of they're like, yeah, you got testimonies, yada, yada, yada. and that's fine. But this testimony is quite poignant and significant, and we'll go into it a little bit. All right. So Roderick Stephen Jones writes, on March 11th, I go to the mailbox because the ancestor money had arrived. When I opened the package, the energy came bursting out. I could feel it spreading around my home. Later that night, I went to bed around 10:30 or 11 o'clock. I still could not fall asleep when I looked at the clock and it was 12:30 a.m., knowing I had to get up around 6:15 to go to my job. When I did fall asleep, I had this recording of walking along, not sure where I was, but there were people there that I didn't know. So we all are walking along and looked up in the clouds, and I see Sri Master Gano Grills. At first, I was like, no way. I kept looking, and I see his signature white beard, LOL. He was dressed in a white robe with a gold trim, holding a golden scepter, which was an ankh. He was floating along with the clouds, or he was walking amongst the clouds. As I got closer, I was yelling, it is Sri Master Gano Grills. And I was like, whoa, whoa, for real? I could feel myself tearing up with happiness, joyfulness, excitement. I just could not believe it. The place I was in was so peaceful, and I had people with me and followed me, not sure what that was about. Maybe my ancestors were amongst me that I didn't know. This recording was short for my perception. And the reason I woke up was because I felt someone touch on my leg. Now, my girlfriend had already left to work, and there was no one else in our home. When I looked at my clock and on my phone, it was exactly 6:14. And my alarm clock goes off every morning at 6:15 a.m. It took me a while to post this because I needed to process what happened, because someone actually touched me and I looked around like no one else is here. It's still mind-boggling. Peace and blessings to all who are reading this. Thank you. Very interesting. What did that mean? Well, the first thing that I would tell you, Roderick, is that you've been ordering Galighticus ancestor money since it began, and you've been utilizing the importance of what it represents to your ancestors and to your loved ones. What happens when you continuously deal? Now, first, let's just elucidate something. You are an ancestral lineage custodian. It is you. You are the one from that particular lineage of your family who was responsible and the vicegerent of sending ancestor money and everything that it provides directly to your ancestors. As a result, now remember, and this is applicable to all of you, at a certain point when your ancestors are really, really happy and pleased with what it is that you are offering to them, they will move out of your way and they will allow you to connect to the gods. The gods are above the ancestors. When you've had this recording, it marks a significant event in your life that your ancestors have now allowed you to connect freely without opposition or any fodder directly to the gods. The vision that you saw of Sri Master Gano Grills in the clouds and things like that, a lot of you have experienced that. And I'm not going to tell you what it means, but I will ask you to think about, why would the spiritual world allow so many people to have the same recording, vision, and demonstration? It's something to think about. Maybe they're giving you a message. Maybe they're highlighting something, because right now We're living in a very, very questionable time. There is lots of disinformation. There's lots of purposeful non-communication. There are things that are omitted, deleted, and withdrawn. There is a lot of hoaxes and fake news happening. Maybe the spiritual world is adding a helping hand at telegraphing something that you might want to pay a little more attention to. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you for sharing that, Roderick Stephen Jones. And that was the testimony of the week. Fantastic. And I hope that you are really, really, you're going to go to your ancestors and thank them that they've given you the heads up that they like what you're doing. They want you to continue. And they've given you the blessing of showing you that they're getting all of the energy that you've been giving to them. Okay? So here is a ritual for you guys. A lot of you have an altar. And for all of you who have an altar, and even if you don't have an altar, I don't think any of you, remember, we're in the early stages of a pandemic. Pandemics are awful. We live, or supposedly live, in a non-third world country. But it could easily look and feel like the reality of a third world country by this time a month from now. And that is not cool. So we're going to ask for intercession. And what I would ask all of you to do is to choose one God that you resonate with, preferably a female principality. You know of at least 20 of them. Use it. I also want you guys to, and thank you, Electric Wizard. Let's get the thumbs up, guys. Let's hit the like button. And even when this video is on tomorrow, or you come across it when it is in non-premiere mode, hit the like button. Take a moment to put the thumbs up so that other people can get the benefit of this, okay? I want you guys to choose one suggestive female principality. It could be Oshun, Yemaya, Kuan Yin, Lakshmi, Fortuna. It can be Aphrodite. There are many of them that you can use. You could even ask Pombajira, Mamawata. There are many, many female principalities that would aid in this difficult time. And I also want you to choose one angelic being. It should be an archangelic being, of which there are 7 major ones, but there are many minor archangels that we can use. Let's petition one female god and one archangel. Choose one. And I want you to form an alliance with them. When is the best time to do this? It would be before you go to bed. Look at the last thing you do before you go to bed, after you make an offering and burn your ancestor money and whatever your nightly rituals are. Make a prayer to them. Now, tomorrow, I have asked the gods for a prayer. It's called a cosmic beacon prayer. A lot of you have cosmic beacons from me. This will make your cosmic beacon a lot more active, and it also will deliver your request faster. For any of you who have cosmic beacons and or a transducer medallion, you will be able to use this prayer that I'm going to share. And I think the best way to do it is the newsletter. So, Racina, again, you'll have a newsletter ready. And for anyone who wants to have the benefit of this cosmic beacon prayer, remember, the cosmic beacon connects to your divine parents. The transducers connect to the personnel of the Galighticus. We definitely need to have that kind of connection at this moment. If you guys are interested, sign up for the newsletter on Galighticus.com. Sign up for the newsletter, and everyone who would like, that will be inside of the newsletter that goes out before Saturday, and you guys can utilize that. So we're going to take one female god, and we're going to take one archangel. Now, this is the part where you guys are going to have to get a little deep on this. I want you to make both of them a promise of something that you will do personally to improve your humanity. If they help our world get back to where it once was. You guys have taken a lot of your liberties for granted. You guys have complained up a storm about things that were already working in your life. You guys have not taken advantage of some of the things that you could have, should have done. And now it was a real threat that even those things will be taken away from you. Again, this is a real threat that we are living in. It is a classic pandemic. And I advocate that we use all of the spiritual resource in unity to illustrate that it's not something that we are willing to live out. And we will be better people because of the threat of its very existence. I also want you to promise the Creator that you will change one thing about your life for the better. And you will honor that for the rest of your life on this planet. Now, it may seem quite innocuous. It might seem, oh, I can do that. But can you really? Do you really have the moral fiber and the conviction and the strength that it would take for you to make a pledge of promising the Creator? Now, we're not talking about the Creator of all now, because some of you won't get this. But for those of you who've been with me, you'll understand. The Creator of all doesn't give a damn what you decide to do with the energy of your life. But the Creator of your being, which would be your divine parents, they created you. They created your soul. That would be your personal creator or creators, right? We're putting things into proper perspective now. If you can promise your particular Creator. Now, there's another thing I just want to elucidate. There's this thing that you're about to meet your Maker. That doesn't mean God Almighty. It does not mean the Creator of all. You most likely will never meet the Creator of all. That's a whole nother story. And I'll get into that during our next seminar, whenever that's going to be. But you will meet your divine parents. You will see your divine parents and your Maker. That's what that means. And they didn't even know it. So if you can take the time and really, really give some deep thought into the one thing that you will change about your life for the better, and you promise to honor that until you leave this life, that is what is known as somewhat of a sacrifice. When you make sacrifices, the energy or the recompense of the sacrifice will benefit you somewhere else in the visibility of your life. And there are not enough people making sacrifices. I remember when I was a young man, my mother worked really, really hard and sacrificed a lot of her sleep, her time, her pleasure to make sure that I wasn't raised in a bad neighborhood. And I thank my mother all the time for that. Thank you, Mom. You know I love you. And she also made sacrifices to make sure that I was well read, that I wasn't just running around in the streets. She sacrificed me not liking her as a parent because she stayed in my. So again, sacrifice yields a great result. And when we make sacrifices spiritually, it is something that we will benefit from in the short term, but really the long run. So that's the ritual, guys. It's a two-part ritual. Quick recap: one female god, one archangel. And you're going to promise them one thing that you will do to increase your humanity. Well, what is that, Tree Master Gano Grills? You know, you can say, I'm going to volunteer every summer for 1 week at a soup kitchen. I'm going to tithe 10% of my gross or net to people who are less fortunate. I'm going to do something to make my humanity better by being a nicer person and making sure that somebody gets the benefit of something that I personally have to offer. It's very simple. It's not hard to do, but it does take some thought and some consideration for others. This is one of the reasons why we are in the pandemic that we are now, because not enough of us are considerate of other people. The next part of the ritual, again, is for you to promise your creator, which would be your divine parents, of one thing that you will do to make your life better. And just by doing that, it can help to make the world a better place if enough people do it, if that makes sense. So I don't know when we will be back on air. I don't know when we will do another live. And I don't know if this video will stand. I hope it does, because we did some deep hypothetical digging around and looking, and who knows? All right. So guys, again, this is not a death sentence. It doesn't have to be that. Keep your hopes high. Keep your spirit up. Come together. And this is a great time to clean up your messy life. It's a good time to clean up your home. It's a good time to spend time with your loved ones and your friends. It's a good time to really reevaluate what is important in your life that you may have overlooked. It's a great time to renew and reinvigorate the cause of your spiritual expansion. Watch 10 Galighticus videos a day. Share these Galighticus videos with other people. Do things to make your environments healthier. Do something that will make your block more aligned and cohesive. It's very easy to do. Extend yourself in these times of need. All right. So there was a coronavirus meditation that Racina, I'm going to need the raw of that so we can put it on, because it's not on YouTube, but it is on Instagram for all of you who are interested. You guys can do that meditation every day. And congratulations to all of you who now have the proclamation that comes from the apotheosis. The apotheosis seminar is, I think there are about 54 people who will now be taking the apotheosis journey. The list is closed, and I was waiting for the right time to share with you. The apotheosis proclamation was written by a council, and everything that is uttered in that proclamation will release certain proteins into your consciousness and will have a benefit if you guys follow the directions. And it will get the attention of the beings who may decide to sponsor you into that particular journey. So make sure that you guys don't miss a day. The list is closed. We'll give the seminar next year. And show a lot of love to each other, guys. Use your heart chakra. If your heart chakra is in disrepair, do some things that will generate the conjunction of its use. Bring it back online. All right? And thank you for joining us. I am Sri Master Gano Gross for Galighticus, and I'll see you guys very soon. Uncle Jeb Sineb.